This episode is sponsored by Bankroll U, the only funded sports betting app in the Apple App Store. For just $49, you can get a $1,000 bankroll to bet with inside the app. Hit your targets, move up levels, and keep real cash prizes. It's real money. It's available in 45 US states, and it's designed to make you a sharper bettor. Download Bankroll U today and prove your game. And we're back. This is the QB Lab podcast. This is dedicated to the greatest position in all sports. Well, we like to think it's the greatest position, although we're going to hear from someone special who has not played that position. But I'm Jake. This is my co-host Zach, and right beside us is someone incredibly special. We got four-time Pro Bowler, one of the hardest hitting safeties of the 1990s, and a cornerstone of that legendary Tennessee Titans defense, former NFL star Blaine Bishop. Blaine, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing great after that intro, man. Maybe I can suit up for one last play. One play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that will work, right? I would love to see that. No, I mean, look, man, we got a ton of great stuff to talk about. Obviously, yes, we're a QB focused show, but as we know, that impacts every player on the field. And like the reason we wanted to bring you on is because a safety position is a very unique position on the field. It's so, I would argue, tightly connected to the quarterback position. I mean, all we hear all the time is how's the quarterback playing the safety? How do they fool the safety? It's always about how do you mix things up with the safety. So to talk to a former safety seems like a natural fit when we want to try to understand the quarterback position. And when we look, across the board, quarterbacks always talking about, fearing the edge rushers, Reggie White, Myles Garrett. There's always that big fear, the blind side. But
Mhm.
for you as a safety with the reputation of being that feared hitter, obviously you were a huge, big time, hard hitting safety. How did you try to make the quarterback uncomfortable from 15 yards deep? What are those little things you did to mess with their progression, make them hesitate, make them notice, make them take a little extra second before they make that throw?
Man, that's a great question because I would say it would vary depending on how much we played those teams. The teams we played twice, naturally, I would do something that I would do opposite of what I did the game before. If we were playing cover 3 or 2, or I'm blitzing, let's say if I'm blitzing, I always creep up and blitz in that game. Well, I may line up on the line of scrimmage and I have deep middle, but it looks like I'm blitzing. So those are the type of things you kind of play this mental game, and those quarterbacks, you know. Athletically probably aren't, well, today's age, yeah, but they beat you with your brains. I mean, with their brains. So you try to play this mental game of you got deep half to deep middle to flat coverage, and kind of change your footwork too, because the real good ones naturally study you, at the safeties, because that's who's kind of dictating what the coverages are. So you have to be really creative throughout that. There's some of these guys are really creative and took it to the next level. I was a little more conservative, and I'm talking about where I played with Brian Dawkins. Man, he was doing some amazing stuff. Sometimes he would almost fool me. I'm like, hey man, he has deep middle. I hope he knows that. he
Yeah.
he would just move around and all over the place. Uh, Fascinating, great, Hall of Fame player. And then, you watch the likes of Troy Polamalu, who sometimes you didn't even know if he was even doing what his assignment was supposed to. When I would watch him on film, watching other teams, and I'm like, oh, okay, they playing Troy Polamalu. I wonder what he did right here. And then I'd watch. I'm like, man, I don't even know what he was supposed to do. Like these guys, they were really unique. I probably was a lot more conservative on that side of kind of trying to trick them. I was more concerned with, I understand what I need to do. Uh, Beat me at what you know and I know, and see if you can. Like so, so if I had deep middle, I wasn't lining up on a line of scrimmage very often. and now I got deep middle. Nah,
Mhm. You're not playing around. Yeah.
yeah. Now I did it a few times and it did work, but it just wasn't something that I was gonna do on a regular basis. But if we're talking about cover 2, 3, you got flag coverage or half field, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much would that mental game change based on if you know the quarterback can scramble? Because obviously back then you've got a bunch of quarterbacks that can run. You've got Steve Young, you got Randall Cunningham, Laird McNair came into the league, but it did seem like the scramble game was a bit more rare than what we're seeing. Like now, it feels like half the quarterbacks in the league
Yeah.
can scramble and
Uh-huh.
and
Mhm.
and find ways. So how does that mental game change, like, before the snap if you're dealing with a quarterback who can scramble and can use their own legs to try to beat you?
Yeah, that's the nightmare that defensive backs do, have to deal with it because, you could cover, and you can only cover for so long. And then if the guy can buy time or scramble or run, usually we would use a spy, whether it would be a safety or a linebacker to spy on the quarterback, especially if he was running like a Lamar Jackson or somebody like that. Even Mahomes in certain situations, I don't know, you have to do film study to tell you if you can do it how often that it needs to be done, maybe just on third down or maybe every other third down or so. But those are the type of things we would do. And then if not, if they don't run, then they kind of free up and you get a, middle player maybe in the, you know, 10 yard range from where the line of scrimmage is. So you'd always feel like you had some form of help. But those guys are super talented now, and the open field is man, it's tough to make tackles in the open field because sometimes it's a routine tackle is a great play when you're playing some of these phenomenal athletes in today's game. And that can keep you from getting the third down. Third down, you're off the field if you make a tackle. Oh, you miss. Oh, they get a first down, keep the drive alive. Then you realize, oh man, they got a field goal out of that drive. Oh, they got a touchdown out of that drive. If I wouldn't have missed this tackle, so
And
I think yeah. So I
yeah,
think that's part of.
I'm curious, also how things have changed so dramatically now with the third down, fourth down situation, right? Where teams are constantly going for it on fourth down. That changes everything, right?
Man, yeah, 4 downs, man. You know sometimes, especially with the Titans, you talk about you when you had Derrick Henry, you're like, "Oh, man, we're gonna get 3 yards, 3 and 9. Oh, man, we're a yard short, so maybe we need to pass one time," because he was such an exceptional player. So, yeah, that just, man, it's become such an offensive game. You guys being where you're at, I'm sure you've seen a lot of high scoring deals there in Canada, but yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow because now teams are going even sometimes backed up on the like 35, 40 yard line in their own territory. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never do that if I was coaching. But it seems, I think it brings a mentality to your team, that belief in, from your coaching staff to the head coach all the way down to your leadership group and the players. If they feel like they got a great play, most of the time I've watched, it probably 50-50 is worked. But yeah, so it's
Yeah,
yeah, that is a killer. I don't know how many times I've run off that field and it's fourth and one. Oh man.
yeah,
So to your point, there is a lot of things that have changed that makes it much more difficult now for the defense. It's an offensive driven league now. They want to put points on the board. They don't want to see the 10-9 games anymore. Sometimes you still see that, especially early in the season, because the offense hadn't, clicked and got into their rhythm and flow. But yeah, the NFL now is all about the offense, in my opinion.
As a
yeah.
safety, I have one thing here. How do you feel about the Jalen Hurts tush push? That would be frustrating as a safety, no? Because it's like you've played so well, you've done everything you're supposed to do, and then they just go and do a tush push and they get that yard every time.
I know it's just unstoppable. I'd probably just try to jump over and just grab the quarterback, but I don't think at least run by them. I don't think he can really be stopped. So I don't know what you can really do about it. And it's a legal play, in my opinion. That's something they did years ago. I think they do it a little bit even in rugby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
that's where I
some
kind
of
of got
those
born
rugby
out of.
players, they can come right on, just put on a uniform on, they'll be ready to rock and roll. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Funny enough.
and it'll be interesting to see if the league bans it after this year. It's going to be interesting. I don't have an issue with it, but I know a lot of teams do, and the coordinator, because it's kind of a unstoppable play. You can't say that it's safe and effective for the players, whether you're on offense or defense. So
Yeah,
it's
that's going to be an interesting one because I was seeing out of the game last week against the Chiefs, there were a bunch of calls on the internet of, "Hey, watch the guards on this play," because
mm,
there's a claim going around that the guards are going before the ball snap. So
yeah,
what you might see going into this week is that the refs get a bit of a tip of, "Hey, we got to make sure we're calling
false start.
offsides if that's
Yeah,
happening." But cool
yeah.
thing to watch going into this week. It's cool seeing those analyses as they're hitting the internet. But
And
one
do
cool
you think they were false starting or starting too soon? Because it looked like it
It
in slow
looked,
motion. We all know when it goes
Yeah.
slow mo. You're like, oh man, he went a half second too soon. I mean, but in the real world, you're not seeing that.
It's
yeah, it's hard to
impossible
tell
for
on
the
those bang bang
refs.
plays. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this is where the ref's job, like I got to give them quite a bit of respect because I do see quite a bit live and I sometimes think from my couch that, I could catch a significant number of the plays, but when you've got all this going on, I imagine that if I'm a ref and I'm watching, I'm looking primarily at the center, and the center is doing a decent job of making sure he's getting his jailing quickly and trying to get to the next motion. But I might not be looking as attentively at the guards because it's not necessarily the point of where the ball specifically is. But I think this is going to be one when people watch the film as they go into this week. It'll be interesting to see if they have to call it a little bit more, especially if the fans are noticing.
Tough point.
But even going back to what you're saying there earlier, I think that it is becoming more of an offensive league, and which is good, and it also adds to the mental game of it because if it's getting more offensive, then you're starting to see these offenses get potentially too much confidence in some of their plays, which might mean that the defense can see some more of these tells. And I know it's becoming even more complicated, like you're seeing in these Ben Johnson and other offenses, like a lot of motions before the play. There's a lot more RPOs. There's a lot more different things happening before the play even starts. But if people are getting more confident in their offensive progressions, if you found yourself in the league, what are the types of tells you'd be looking for before the snap? What are those things like knowing that people are getting that confident in it? Is that also an opportunity? Are there things that people should be looking for?
Mm. Hey, and that's a great question. Uh, and when I go into games, there's so much eye candy that goes on now, and I call eye candy motions, uh, you know, counter plays where you figure out, at least this is what I would do every week, figured out the keys and reads of what I need to do out of every formation. So I had a pretty good memory, and I would watch tons of film every week. I would go back sometimes 5 to 6 years, depending on the coordinator who was the coordinator of the offense, and go get film of them because they run the same plays that they run before. Because I would keep notebooks on them, and so I would do that. But every play, I just want you guys to try this when you watch a game. It's really hard, and that is from a safety's perspective, look at the uncovered lineman. So it may be a guard, most likely on one side of the ball or the other. So in the NFL, which is different than college, you cannot be downfield, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but in college, you can. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's 3 or 4 year or yard window or whatever. Well, in the pros, you can't. So when you fire off the uncovered lineman, guess what he's telling you? If he fires off, it's a run.
yeah,
Mhm.
No, instantly.
Fires off, it's a run. So nothing else can change. He's an uncovered lineman. If he's uncovered, if it's a pass, even if he wants to try to fake me out, he'll step forward and then go back, but his hands will go up. And then his hands are now going to dictate to me. Where, because if not, he's going here. If not, he'd be going like that, his body. So I think you have to pay attention to the details. So for me, that was easy. And I'm gonna say it like this. the play would go on, I would hear nothing. As soon as the play is over, yeah, I hear all the noise. But that you got to take yourself through this concentration. So you see a lot of players and super talented ones, too, that eye key reads. I call it eye discipline because it will take you to the play every time. I would say, um, because of that discipline is probably how I made those 4 Pro Bowls. It
Yeah,
wasn't because
makes sense.
ultra super athletic like some of these guys are. I mean, I was athletic, but I mean like some of these guys, like, man, dang, wow, you see that guy? Like, yeah, I mean, some of these big guys you see running, man, in a 5-yard window. I'm like, man, we were running driver shot. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I that's what I would do. I know that was a long answer, but I really took pride in that, and it's easier said than done. I understand that, but uh, yeah, I called everything, all the stuff I can. I would watch the play over and over, and I would figure out a player that I can watch based off where I'm going to be in this week's, game plan, and I'm gonna put my eyes right where it needs to be, and I'm not gonna let go. And I very rarely did I get faked out like that. Yeah, never happened.
Well, it takes practice. I mean, it's interesting to hear how far you would go back in terms of analyzing a player. Like, I wouldn't have even
Yeah.
considered that. I would think,
Well,
okay,
I'm a
you're looking
coaching
at
staff,
that
not
season,
necessarily
right?
a player, but I love watching film, and I had a
Yeah.
photographic memory. So anything that I watch, and especially if I watch it over and over and over, I'm like, oh man. And so sometimes you could turn on tape and you can see me running before the plays even snap because I
Wow.
already know.
Yeah. And even just how you're talking about it, it sounds like your brain is almost naturally indexing it based
Yeah.
on like
Uh-huh.
based on what down you're like obviously situational football, but like especially talking about how like much you were placing a premium on the discipline,
Yeah.
having those variables that you're cataloging in your head as the basis for what your discipline should be. It obviously makes a ton of sense, and it's cool hearing it from you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'd be in the game. I'd never stop talking. I'm like, it's 3rd and 4. They bring in 2 tight ends, personnel. I mean, I'm going through this whole thing every play. Then now I'm out here. I'm checking the play. No, no, no. They're coming over here. We're going to check over here when they motion. I mean, that's just how my brain was working. And it was just easy because of just my acumen in ball. I didn't realize that till I got to the league. And then I thought most guys were like me. And they kind of
Yeah.
wasn't that way.
That's crazy. No, you were quarterbacking the defense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are talking with a quarterback.
Yeah.
We're
I talk about
talking about,
Yeah.
right? We're
I
talking
mean,
to a quarterback right now. It's interesting. It is wild how you viewed that and how you're almost announcing a team so that both, I think, you're cataloging it like Zach said, but you're also sort of notifying, hey guys, like look out for this, look out for that, right? So it's interesting to hear how you're marking every little thing. And I don't think people understand that when they're watching the game, how much you're looking at. You're looking at every small little detail. You're not just looking at, oh, they have this many linemen, the quarterbacks do this. No, you're looking at like every little note, every little sound that the quarterback makes, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say this. Yeah, we also can listen to checks, and then you realize what they check to after they run it a couple times. Then you go, okay, this is maybe it starts with an L and it goes left or whatever it may be. But here's a good example, like paying attention to the details. What you're talking about. I forget what team it was, but the running back would line up right behind the tackle on certain plays when they ran counters. But when he was running out on the backfield, he would straddle the tackle, offensive tackle. So now he was a little further out so he can get out faster because he wasn't going to run a count. So these little things, and that's a half a yard, but I can tell when he's lined up. Oh man, you're further out. I can see you on the outside here. So I would knew he was gonna, he's gonna try to get out fast and not run a counter when the illusion of it is it looks just like the counter play, but it's not the counter.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So didn't
Or
know.
he would get depth.
That's
They would
wild.
line up further back, then you knew it was the counter. Yeah,
Fair.
instead of him trying to get out. So there's little keys like that only you can learn. Coaches aren't going into that kind of detail. They kind of give you a prep of what to look out for in certain situations. But those little things like that, I did them on my own. I felt much more comfortable doing them on my own. But there were some coaches that did do that.
Yeah, that was when you were talking about that had me thinking about checking it down. That's where I thought you might have been going with that. When what's interesting is like it seems like in the 90s and the 2000s when you saw those checkdowns to the running back or to someone else that was in more of a conservative area of play, it was often kind of viewed as, hey, we're just settling for what we can get in a certain defensive scheme. But now you're seeing like Mahomes and Allen use checkdowns in ways that completely beat defenses and is part of the game planning now. Is there anything there in terms of like where those players are setting or those types of reads that that you're seeing now that is worth kind of delving into deeper?
As far as the check down, what I think has happened is it's kind of like with all the passing game and the vertical passing game, it's become vertical passing game. And so then when you do that and you're trying to defense that, you're using multiple players, whether it's cover two, cover four, which is four deep, uh, then that leaves room for now you have a guy, if it's 3rd and 12, he may catch the ball at 5 yards, but he have a shot. If he makes one guy miss, then now in the open field, he can still get the first down and keep the drive alive. So I think that's what happens is you get more space and then you do like in, let's say in Canada where the field is huge. Now you're trying to give the illusion that that kind of space is there because everybody's out and about and is spread out. And now you have to make a tough one-on-one tackle and you have to, in my mind, I always use the sideline as a man. So I would try to squeeze guys to the sideline because that is another man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's wild. So I got an interesting one for here, and I'm hoping we'll talk about a specific player. Is you made a living obviously delivering big hits, right? As a safety, it's a massive part of the job. Is there a specific quarterback that earned your respect where it's like you drilled him, you sacked him, but he just gets back up. He's tough. He gives it to you. He gets right back up, no issues. Is there any quarterback that you remember that you would have been like, yeah, I really respect this guy. I respect his game. I respect the way he plays.
Man, well, you guys mentioned, man, I caught the end of the old school guys, and so then I got, version of the new school guys from the last years of like Steve Young, Montana, even with the Chiefs, my rookie year, to Elway, his last year. So I mean, I even Barry Sanders last year, I got to even play against him, but yeah, man, I mean, I was just a special teamer, so man, I saw it really hard. Here's what I'm going to say. I respected not only all our opponents, but the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, everybody I played were really exceptional players. There's probably not one guy. I'd say all of them were really. I mean, I know that's kind of a cop out, but nobody like stood out like, oh, he was so different. Now, some would talk a little bit, like even Brett Favre would talk a little bit in the game, and actually more in a fun way. Uh, you know, man, phew. Man, there was a lot of really elite players. I mean, played against and then teammates with McNabb. I never got a chance to being a teammate with McNair to go against him when he was actually with the Ravens. So everybody used to call and ask me what it was like, to tackle McNair, and I said I never tackled him. So I don't know.
You weren't
You
allowed
know,
to touch. You weren't touching him
yeah.
in
So he was kind of
practice, right?
like a running back. So some of these guys, maybe up top, not as built up because of what their job is as quarterbacks, but their lower body, they're super strong, and their legs, they're about as strong as most players, if not even some of the linemen, because your legs are an extension of your arm. And if you see a lot of these quarterbacks, you don't see them muscle build up there. You see them nice, lean, and flexible up there. So yeah, those guys are all really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
was there a quarterback that you maybe took particular pride in outthinking? Like maybe you
Uh,
disguised a play and you're like, you know what, this one stands
you
out to me
fooled
that I
him.
didn't think I'd
Uh,
be able to trick him in
I
that way.
I
Or
do I do have I wanted it because it never happened but this one time, but it did happen. So,
right?
so Oh, now that was the Peyton Manning in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was younger in his career. I think it was his third year or so. And, I showed on tape, I usually creep up to the blitz or I'll show like I am. And then I didn't do a lot of like decoying up until that point, really. Even in the playoffs, I would do a little bit here, there, but in my mind, I was like, nah, I'm going to make sure I'm have my responsibilities. You just got to beat me. In this game, I saw him look dead at my feet every play. I'm like, man, why is he looking at my feet? What am I doing? This is first quarter. And so I'm like, man, I got to do something different. So I lined up on the line of scrimmage and I had deep middle. And I told you I'd never do that.
Oh,
And
that's
that is
risky.
exactly what I did. Checked the play and ran a run play to the left where the actual blitz was coming. So the other safety rolled down right in because you can look at the clock. And once you get under 5 seconds, you got it's like you don't need to disguise no more. It's too late. He's checked the play. So I rolled a deep middle and he called a run play right to where the blitz was coming. So yeah,
Love it.
that was one of the few times that Peyton Manning he probably was the toughest mentally to to face. It was really hard to trick him. So that's why that one kind of stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
What
that.
what's interesting
Probably
was like right
smart.
before this, for fun, I went to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, what are the particular highlights that Blaine Bishop is known for?" And
What
they
is that?
point to specific highlights, but around that game, they said Bishop made multiple pass breakups, helped with pass coverage and run support. His discipline, especially not biting on play action fakes, was specifically credited as helping shut down big plays. So it's cool to hear the story from in the game and into what the recap looked like because yeah, it's interesting hearing it from all sides.
Yeah, that was a but I mean, I had family and friends from high school. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. I am from Indianapolis, and it was in Indianapolis.
Wow.
I
Okay.
went
Okay.
high school and college in Indiana and at Ball State, and we had won state there in high school. And so
Wow.
that was a really special game, and I felt like I was at home. I don't think that at the time, Coach Fisher said that was my best game of my career, but I didn't think of it that way in the moment because we were in the playoffs, and so we won, and I was just excited and everything else. But something happened before that game that really got me to that kind of relaxed mode, and it was fun. And that was seeing my principal from high school on the sideline because he worked for the Colts. I went to a Catholic high school, so it was Father Kelly. He was our minister and pastor there. So we had a conversation on the sideline. He was like, "Man, everybody called me Woody in high school, not by Blaine Bishop." Uh, he said, "Man, who would have thought that Woody would have made it to the National Football League?" And I just looked at him and laughed. And I mean, I gave him a big old hug and I just said, "Not even Woody."
Love
Nice.
that.
So it was, because I was a running back, defensive back in high school, and even in college for a little bit, I was still kind of offensive guy, but uh, I had a better shot of starting and competing and playing. So I went that direction. I would have never made running back as pro. I would have never made it. So yeah, so I'm glad
Had
I
to make the transition.
yeah.
It's
Well, that's why I always talk about kids. They should play both sides of the ball, at least
yeah.
try to do it in high school because when you get to college, you never know, and you want some experience and you want an opportunity to play
Mm.
unless you're super elite. And I was all city, all state, all metro, but I wasn't, highly recruited by any means. Actually, I went to a Division II school my freshman.
Wow, okay.
Quick break to tell you about our friends at Bankroll U, the United States' only funded sports betting app available in the Apple App Store. Here's how it works. You select how large of a bankroll you want them to fund you with. For example, you can get a $1,000 bankroll for only $49 and enter the Combine. You bet the lines they provide just like you would at a traditional sports book, and when you hit your targets, you move out of the combine and into the pro levels. In the pro levels, you get to keep real cash prizes, and at the highest level, you get to keep 100% of your profits, all on that very first $49 investment. It's all real money, and it's designed to make you a sharper bettor while you earn. Bankroll U is live in the iOS App Store and legal in 45 states. Football season is here. Download Bankroll U and prove your game.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know my story. I went to Division II school and make Division II All American. But I would have stayed there. But week 4 there, I got to play offense and defense because of some injuries at the school I was at St. Joseph's College, and even have a football program now. And after that game, I scored 4 different ways, and they said that they were there watching some other guy on the other team, I guess, and they said that I had a shot in the National Football League. That's
Wow.
after getting no Division I offers. Literally
Wow.
4 months later. 4 months later, the guy said I had a shot at the National Football League, and I really wanted to say, really? But I didn't. I just like, oh, okay, thank you. And I never thought about it again until
Wow.
till I
So at
played at
that
Boston.
point, like, you didn't necessarily think like, "Oh, I'm going to the NFL."
No,
Like,
I didn't think I was going to
you're
the
getting
league.
an education, you're playing football in college. You're not thinking like, "This is my career."
No, not at all. And I actually didn't think about it anymore uh, until I actually got drafted, really, because
Wow.
I hadn't told a lot of people that story because I was so focused and driven at the time because it was very discouraging, disappointing that I didn't get a Division I offer. So I was I was captain of the team. Great student, 3 student. I mean, I just, and I was a big Notre Dame fan growing up, going to Catholic high school. We had the same colors. We were fighting Irish. And so not having any was, man, I was distraught. So from that point on, I worked hard. I was a hard worker, but man, I started doing running heels. I was doing all kind of stuff from that point, me and a couple of my buddies. And yeah, I was just determined to be the best version of what I could be. Not what other people, because I got tired of hearing people, well, oh, he's too small, he can't do this and that. I'm like, okay, well, you come in the basketball gym and saw me 360 dunk, right? Well, I don't know too many people that's 5'9" that can do that.
Yeah.
And so it showed when I went to the combine when it was 42.5-inch vert. So I mean there was no jokes around that. I mean, I was a really good athlete, but so whatever reason it didn't happen. But as soon as I got to Ball State and played and started sophomore year, the scouts were there every day, every
So then at
practice.
what point
5'9"
did
and
you
you can
feel,
dunk.
yeah,
5'10" and I can barely touch the mesh. Unbelievable.
Well,
yeah,
no, I didn't say dunk. I said 360 dunk.
Well,
360?
that's pretty crazy.
And right now I'm right there with you, just touching the rim.
Yeah, exactly.
So then at what point did you start to feel like confident in you being a safety? Because it sounds like there's this starting period where you're thinking about which position is right for you. You may have like preconceived notions about what side of the ball you want to be on, or even on the defensive side, what makes the most sense. But at what point did you start to like feel like your identity was really as a safety?
Wow, man, that really didn't happen until I really got to pros. As far as
Okay.
safety, I played corner in college and in high school. Senior year, I think I might have played 4 games or so. Someone got injured, toward the ACL, so I kind of moved to safety, temporarily throughout that process. But I really never was a safety until I got to the pros,
Okay.
and that kind of accidentally happened where I was a nickel and 2 guys got season-ending injuries, and they, oh, we'll put you at safety, but it's temporary. Then I was a backup, and then that starter got hurt, and then next week 10, I'm starting in rookie year on Christmas Day against the 49ers, Steve Young and Jerry Rice and those guys. So it was just kind of happenstance, but I always went with the flow, whether I disagreed or agreed, even in high school all the way. I just said, hey, this is where the coach wants to put me. I'm gonna try to make the most of it, whether it's temporary or not. So I really didn't buy into that. I was a safety to really pro, and that's what I was, and that's how I was going to have to make my niche if I wanted to make it in the National Football League. There was no doubt those guys are super fast. super athletic. And I just was like, well, looks like I'm probably going to be stuck here. So I kind of beefed up a little bit, put on like, 10, 15 pounds
Uh-huh.
power back then, and got up to, for me being, 205, and hey man, could carry the weight and still run and change directions, and that worked out well for me. And nice scheme system, great players around me, but the coaching staff, I fit the scheme and system, and really kind of helped fit all my skill sets of what I could do. Being a smart player, I can be physical. I also can cover in the nickel. Uh, in the 46 defense with Buddy Ryan, so it was really fun.
Yeah, and then how much that because obviously a big part of the reputation is how heavy the hits were. Like I imagine there were a couple quarterbacks that were checking their closet underneath their bed for you at night before going to sleep. So at what point were you like, hey, I can really hit here and use that as part of the identity as well?
Yeah,
Who did you want to drill? Who's the guy that you'd really want to drill, backing up into the pocket?
no, it wasn't like that for me. It was more. I really have to thank some of my teammates in my rookie year
Yeah.
because when I was first there, it was a veteran team. They had a really good team there with the Oilers at the time, and I was just a special team guy, and that most people on the Oilers didn't even know where Ball State was, so they were like, "Man, we drafted you, man. Where is that?" So it was kind of like a joke, like, who is this guy? He's probably not gonna make the team, being the last round guy. So it was kind of like that, and then on special teams, one day uh, I'm doing punt. I'm what they call the gunner out wide, like a wide receiver, and they had two
Mm-hmm.
guys jamming me, and they really just hemmed me up and took me to the sidelines and just dumped me. I mean, it was, and most college guys, they come out, they were always, everybody was the best player on their team, right? So that you never get embarrassed or something like that would happen. It's just like, you're one of the better players. It just didn't happen. And I really, I was kind of just fed up with, just getting abused, really. And so I yelled back at them to line back up. We're going to do this drill again. And that kind of got me respect. And naturally, I beat them and punished them like they had been doing for me the entire training camp. And so that then showed me what I needed to do to play in the national football. I was going to have to play, upset or angry. That was just the only way. That was the only way if I wanted to be. If not, I had a State Farm job already waiting for me, and so I was going to have to make a choice. So I wanted to see if I could. I was going to get one shot, and I said, "Hey, what do I have to lose?" So, but one thing I did want to say is that I was going to say I gave it all I got, and then that way I could live with myself. I wasn't going to not give it all I got. So once I figured that out, and then my niche and what it was going to be on this team and in this scheme, then sky was the limit. I thought after that, and once, especially after I got playing time, because the game was really fast when I first got out there. I was like, man, I didn't even see that guy's jersey number. Who was that? And so, and this is what really helped propel me and get me took my confidence to another level, is that second, third, by the fourth start, the game started slowing down like it was college. And then that's when I knew. And now I couldn't tell you why it did, because I knew guys that went to Alabama, Notre Dame, whatever, it didn't matter. The game never slowed down for them. They couldn't, and they were all American. And so I don't know what that is. I think it's some form of eye control or something. But yeah, once it slowed down, I was like, we about to have some fun.
You knew
Yeah.
you were going to be able to play. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I knew
interesting.
you knew. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you get little glimpses here because it's spot play where it's like, oh man, dang, I played so much faster there. Why did I do that? Like, you know, and so I was like, oh, maybe I need to hone on in this. And the coach kept on saying, hey man, you just gotta get your eyes right where it needs to be, and then just play football because you're a great football player. And then once that just happened, it just like boom, it just hit, and bam, it happened. And next thing you know, they make plays.
So before we take a step to sort of new era, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about Cam Ward for sure on the Titans. I gotta ask some questions about Music City Miracle. You were on the Titans during that, and obviously as a Buffalo Bills fan, it was, gut wrenching. It was the hardest thing to ever see. I mean, I think for a lot of Bills fans, it was a curse. It was a curse for us for many, many years, basically until we got Josh Allen. And being on that team in that moment, at first I want to understand like how amazing that moment is. The game was potentially lost, and all of a sudden, you guys make this miraculous play. And, us Bills fans don't like to look at it as a miracle. Titans fans do. But looking at that, what was it like being there for that moment? Because that was a massive turning point. And then obviously you guys go on to the Super Bowl. That game was a turning point, was it not? Like that one play changes the trajectory of the playoffs for you guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. After that play happened, I said we were a team of destiny. I just knew we were going to not only go to the Super Bowl, but we were going to win it. Because things like that just don't happen. I was, to be honest, I was sitting there on the sideline thinking about where I was going to go for vacation. I thought the game was over. In real talk. Now, what's so funny about that play is we would practice it in shorts and t-shirt every Saturday with different players. I even did the play. Like it was just a routine deal, fun thing. We may do this at the end, kind of relax, practice on a Saturday right before, you go on the field and probably run, I don't know, 30 plays total with special teams included, just, and they kind of keep it relaxed. We run around, throw it around, get you guys loose, make sure everybody is feeling pretty decent. And we did it. Alan Lowry was a special team coach, and I think he did it in the 70s with the University of Texas where he was at or something. And so we did it every Saturday, so with different people. So I don't know if that gave us or lend us confidence that it would work, or at least that we had a shot anyway. And then at that time, Derek Mason was the guy supposed to be back there. He was injured, so that's how Dyson got out there. And he was one of the guys that had practiced it too. All the skill guys have done it, myself included, right? So when the play actually worked, that's when you just go, oh my. And then, I was standing right there on the sideline too. So my whole question was, and I didn't really know the rule. I was looking where Frank Whitecheck threw the ball, not with his body, not where his actually released the ball. And so that was a huge difference because I thought they were going to overturn it, but there was no way once, he scored, they were going to overturn it. And, once you learned the rule that it was a legal pass, it went straight down the line. Then I was like, wow, this is unbelievable, man. And it was pure joy and just happiness. And then, then we had to go beat the Jaguars for the third time, who only lost 2 times to us. So then they had lost 3 times. So that lens that I just knew we were going to win Super Bowl. We had played the Rams before in the regular season, but not on turf. We played them at home. And, they were the greatest show on turf, and they showed that in that game, so we come up a little short.
It's wild. And, when we look at that game, and I don't know if you remember, if it even would cross your guys' mind, like I don't know exactly what goes on in the locker room, but it was a very unique situation because, and no one should quote me, but I'm pretty certain it's never happened except for this situation with the Bills, which is they had a starting quarterback who played unbelievably well throughout the season in Doug Flutie. He got to rest week 17 to play in the playoffs. Rob Johnson has a mediocre game in week 17 against the Jaguars in a meaningless game. And the Bills go and start Johnson and bench Flutie, which keeps the game a lot closer. And of course, Music City Miracle happens. I'm curious to know your take in terms of 2 things. One, if Flutie plays in that game, given how elite he was in that season, and of course, Rob Johnson, who at the end of the day was a bust and a failed quarterback in the end in the NFL. Great quarterback in college, total bust in the NFL. If they have Flutie in that situation and the game isn't close, the Bills go on to the Super Bowl. Is that what changes everything? I mean, a
I
quarterback
don't know if they
needs
would have went to the Super
sure,
Bowl. Well, let's not get it confused. There was still another game, the AFC Championship game, and then the Super
of
Bowl.
course.
But to your point, though, I was elated that they put Rob Johnson out there. I could not believe it. And we had played against him when he was with the Jaguars. So
Yeah.
we knew exactly who he was. So for us, we were like X marks the spot. The
Wow.
X marks the spot means that we know where he's going to be every time. Every time
Unbelievable.
he's a big arm guy who wants to throw the ball. So if we blitz him, he's gonna get rid of the ball quick or he's gonna get pounded. One of the two. And so we
Yeah.
felt like we can make him
It's
force him to
crazy.
throw some bad
Because
balls.
Fluke is a totally different quarterback. Totally different.
Not only was he totally different, he was playing magical that season. It was like he was back at Boston College. And it was like, oh my gosh, they did us a favor. I could not believe it. And I know a lot of it has to do with who they paid at the time and pressure. And maybe it was ownership who wanted them out there.
It
I don't
was.
know. But
Yeah.
it was just like,
Apparently.
oh my gosh, the best player did not play. And think about this now. We could talk about Flutie, his height, but that year he played probably the best in his career, and he was throwing deep comebacks out. Even when he could see he could run, and any DB will tell you he doesn't want to play a running quarterback, as we were just talking
Mm,
about earlier. Doug Flutie was a runner, like he could run, so he could buy time, he could run down the field. He was a special, special player. I had a lot of respect for him, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I was like, dang, man, and that really gave us a shot of winning because it was a defensive game. It was a low
tight
scoring.
game.
And so naturally, a quarterback that can maneuver always can help you out there in stressful times when defenses are kind of dominating. Because you guys had a real good defense too.
Yeah, no, it was a great team. It's funny, you talk about maneuverability, pocket presence, all that stuff. It takes me to Cam Ward. It's a natural
Yeah.
transition. I'm curious to get your take on him. Obviously, you focus on the Titans, you talk tons of Titans football. Looking at a guy like Cam Ward, it's early in the season. He's got a long way to progress. First overall pick, high expectations. But the media hasn't bombarded him. I think he's been given a nice opportunity. He's in a situation where I think the expectations on the Titans at this moment are low, which is good. I think it's a good thing for him. I think it keeps the pressure relatively low. I'm curious to just get your thoughts on him in general, both as the number one overall pick and your thoughts of where he's going, and also just some of the development you've seen so far. And ideally, where you see him going. What are the best traits of him that you see and the reason why he went first overall?
Mm. Well, man, Cam Ward. I think I would say it's his accuracy as on the field, but I think it's his work ethic and his relationships with his team and his leadership. Man, he is already a true bona fide leader. And when I say that, I'm talking about the National Football League. Obviously, he was in college in all his different stops, and that's a hard task in itself, especially being the quarterback. So yeah, his accuracy is phenomenal. I think he has the right mindset, and I would say his mindset is kind of old school, not the new generation of players. He's kinda old school, old ball guy. He likes to watch film, he likes doing ball, like, all day. He gets over there at 4:30, 5 a.m. every day. Like, that's who he is, and, I appreciate that, and I think they gotta get more weapons around him, so naturally the team is, rebuilding, but he definitely is every bit of why he deserved to be the number one quarterback. I think the low part of his bar is going to be that he's just going to be an average starting NFL quarterback. The sky's the limit for
Yeah, I love that quote that came out of training camp where he's saying that if his dad could get up early to work a
him. Yeah.
job he hated, that he can definitely go for honestly, every interview he's done where he's talked about his attitude has been top notch. Like that's a cool through line for this particular interview where you're talking about having the right attitude and make sure you were exactly where your mind needs to be as you're looking through different positions and as you were kind of going about analyzing the game into Cam Ward, who seems like he's going from interview to interview, saying the right things and really leading by doing, and making sure that his teammates can follow suit.
Yeah, and I think also, as far as his playing ability, I think early on now, I think he needs to just fight that gunslinger mentality. I think he's embracing controlled gunslinger, but he still has it. This last game, I know it's only 2 games in live action, but he was kind of looking for that home run ball a little too much instead of just taking what the defense gives you. And that's, part of the growth as a quarterback because he was able to get away with that and will run around and make some plays. And the NFL is, a lot better talent, and he's learning that, especially some of these big guys. So I think once he perfects that and then get some more talent around him, man, he's going to be. Titans got him a good one.
So to tie things in a nice bow, to reference something that we talked about when you first came on before we went on air, we talked about the difference between analytics and PFF data and just the good old eyeball test.
Yeah,
And you got that your phrase, the eye in the sky don't lie. So
yeah.
when you look at quarterbacks across the board, I'm curious to see and hear who you put as the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Because it's a conversation that everyone's always having. Who's the best? Who's the best? And at the end of the day, we all know that even if you are the best quarterback, it doesn't mean you have the best team. But when we look across the board, do you have that top 3 that you're like, yeah, these are the 3 elite quarterbacks. These are the 3 guys that I would love to have any of those guys on my team right now because I have the best shot to win a Super Bowl?
Mm. That's a tough question for me, and that I don't know if I could put 3. I may have to go 4. But I'm gonna talk about first is the style of quarterback I want as my quarterback. Now, if you go look up the history, now the history has changed, but over the history of this league, most running quarterbacks haven't won a Super Bowl. Now we could kind of debate what running is. We could say Russell Wilson was a running quarterback, but I'm talking about like Lamar Jackson type, Michael Vick type guys I played against. I mean, Michael Vick. Oh boy, he was fast. So I would say it's going to be, and this is going to surprise. I like Joe Burrow. I like my quarterbacks to be pocket passers, but can maneuver in the pocket, have great pocket presence, have a big arm, but can move the chains. I don't want him to be the guy that runs the 4-4 because then you will lean into that and run more than you should. Now, n- so that lends me to I like Joe Burrow, I like Josh Allen, I like Lamar Jackson, and then lastly, I would put how can I not put Mahomes on there, right? So that's kind of where I'm at on the quarterbacks. I picked preseason that Josh Allen would win MVP and that the Buffalo Bills would finally get over tonight and win that, or Super Bowl.
Hey,
Wow.
Yeah, that was
from
our
your lips
prediction.
to God's ears, let's go. Let's make it
Exactly.
happen.
That's what we all would love to see. And it's funny you bring up the running. It's interesting because obviously early in the season so far, we've seen Patrick Mahomes run more than he's ever run. Now, I think it's an offensive issue in terms of weapons availability
Receiver
for him,
not
right?
open. Yeah.
There's just no one open. He doesn't have his top-notch receivers. Of course, he has Travis Kelce, but he's not the same guy anymore. He's getting older. He's near the end of his career. So it's interesting to see how much Mahomes is running versus what we've seen basically ever in his career. I've never seen him have to run out of like desperation more than we've seen right now.
hmm Yeah, and that then hence means he's gonna get hit a lot more. So I don't know. That's why I don't like my quarterbacks running in this day and age too. As much passing, got to make sure you get your offensive line right. So that's another thing. Back to Cam Ward in my mind, but being Titan centric is that uh, they signed Dan Moore Jr., who was an average starter for the Steelers the last 4 years, and then J.C. Latham injured his hip, and he's out now, and so he's got sacked 11 times through 2 weeks already. No big shots, but it can be accumulation adds up. So I think that's probably the only fear I have with Cam Moore this first season is to make sure that do all they can to try to protect him as best they can.
It's a very timely concern given the Burrow injury. I think what's grabbed the internet that's discussing the NFL right now is how many sacks he's had to wear over the course of his career, and comparing those numbers to Andrew Luck, who ended up retiring early because of the wear and tear that he wore on his body. So at least the Tennessee Titans are making great moves to try to do what they can to protect their quarterback. But it's a very timely conversation, especially going around this Joe Burrow injury out over the season with that toe injury. He's going to have to go for surgery on that. But hoping that Cam Ward gets that type of offensive line help, because he's got all the talents and the skills where if he has those couple years of development, as you were saying, the ceiling's super, super high on a talent like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. Great chat. Once again, had Blaine Bishop, unbelievable 4-time Pro Bowler. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you again soon.
Appreciate it. Peace.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank